see when people come in. Oh, live chat. Live chat. Hmm. 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2. Oh my goodness. 1 2 1 2. Testing 1 2. Okay, I've been live. It's actually early. Oh no, it's actually 1 o'clock now. All right. So, um, I'm here. I don't know if anybody else is here just yet. Homestead Survival Gardening with me, Brendan Riordan. I'm a Homestead Survival Garden Coach. And welcome to my basement. We just moved not too long ago, and we haven't even really fully unpacked. But I'm so blessed because the basement is a full-size basement, and that's very rare in North Carolina. And we have a full basement, which we're going to probably use for guests eventually, and also canning, too. We're going to can. So I don't know how to see who is in and who is not. Let's see. See something. Okay. Okay. So I'm here and waiting for anyone who has a garden question. This is the time of year when just about everything goes wrong in the garden, from diseases to insects, and my garden is no exception. We get hammered. I'm getting hammered with bugs. Not so much diseases this year, but I'm getting hammered with bugs of all sorts of insects. How about you? All right. Here I am now. Let's see. Well, it's live stream, so, and it's recorded too, so I think we can, yeah, we should have a recording here. Let's see. Anybody's on? Can't tell. There's 2 people here. All right, if you have a question, just post it right in the live chat, and I'll be able to see you. I'll be able to see that. Let's see. What's this in live chat? Just in live chat, it's fine. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll wait for a few people to get in. I know it's the middle of the day. I picked 1 o'clock because I don't like broadcasting. I don't like doing pretty much anything at night. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I want to be done. I wouldn't mind doing it in the morning or early afternoon. It's a better time. Alrighty. Let's see what's going on. Okay. So it says there's 2 people here, but I can't tell. Alright, right here, put in your comment. Whoever's here, if you're here. Ah. Questions in the chat. Alright. So I'll go out and pick some tomatoes while I'm waiting for you guys to show up. So the topic today is help save my garden right now. And the reason I chose that topic is so it's timely. Uh, I used to be in zone 4 and now I am in zone 7. And there's a big difference. I think that the insects are more intense in zone 7 because the weather stays nicer longer. So the insects have a time to have 2 and 3 and 4 life stages as opposed to where I came from in New York with zone 4. Um, the insects would just pretty much have one life cycle. Although it's amazing how it could be minus 30 degrees in New York and somehow the insects would come to life at the right time and attack and eat the plants. So wherever you are, I would imagine if you're in Alaska or wherever anything grows, some insect will survive and is there to help, is there to hassle your plants. So anyhow, I'm going to start with prayer because God is the provider. We're all about provisions ministry and God is the provider. Lord God, I thank you, Lord, for giving us the ability to grow food, Lord. And I pray that you bless this time and that people be helped. And that you would teach us how to be good shepherds of our gardens, Lord. Help us to prosper and help grow food for each other. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So, all right. All right. Well, here we go. I'll wait until to see who's coming in. It says there's 2 people here. If there's another person here, chime in. Chime in and see where you are. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just go through what I plan on talking about today, and then we'll see if anybody comes in. So I'm going to read Isaiah 2:4. So I'm also a minister, so I'm like a garden evangelist. So here we go. I like Isaiah 2:4. It's during the millennial reign, and it says, "And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore." So that's King James. But I'm going to read something out of a plain, like a modern day language too. Let's see if I can find one here. Yeah, here's the CEV. I don't even know what that stands for. I'm looking on Bible Gateway. He will settle arguments between nations. They will pound their swords and their spears into rakes and shovels. They will never make war or attack one another. That sounds pretty good. So, it's a blessing to have a garden. In fact, if you read the Bible, when they went into the land of Canaan, they what they inherited, the land of milk and honey, were the main thing they inherited was a farm. They inherited a farm that the milk and honey that had where they could milk cows and grow crops, and they had fig trees and grapevines they didn't plant and wells they didn't dig, and that was like the major part of the reward of the promised land for Israel when they made it into Canaan. And here again in the millennial reign, it turns around about how warriors will take their weapons and convert them into rakes and shovels or plowshares, so they'll be able to garden again in peace. And there's this, I think it's in Micah, I could be wrong. No, I don't think it's in Micah. I had quoted it before, and it said, "In times of peace, every person should sit under their own vine and their own fig tree." So, in the Bible, it's portraying a time of peace and blessing when you have a garden. And many generations ago, not too many generations ago, I'd say 2 or 3 generations ago, gardening, everybody grew a little bit of their own food in their backyards, but we've kind of gotten away from it. But with all the talk of famine and food shortages and wars creating those things, people are starting to think again about food, growing their own food. So I have been for pretty much my whole life. I always tell people that next to the Lord and my family, gardening is my passion. And that's what it's always been. So I've always had my hands in the soil with my grandmother, starting in a small little plot in Jersey City. She would grow grapes and figs and tomatoes and flowers. She'd can her own tomatoes and made her own jam, grape, I think it was Concord jam, and made her own pizza from the tomatoes she grew, and it was just a blessing. So I kind of got in tune with gardening back then, and then when I got a little older, we actually had a competition between myself and my grandmother to see who could grow the most and best tomatoes. And I would set up the my half of the yard with this elaborate irrigation system with with little funnels, and she would just water when the plants looked like they were going to die. And at the end, she wound up growing bigger and better tomatoes. But somewhere along the line, I got a green thumb. So she passed it on to me eventually, so I got it. So, yeah, okay, there were two people, now there's one. Okay, so I'm waiting for the questions, though. What is going on here? Let's see. I don't see the question. Ah, that's what I should have done. Sorry. I did not do that. Okay. Oh, Don Riordan's on. Okay. I see Don Riordan is on. There were two people on. Now there's Don Riordan. But I don't see anybody sending any questions. I guess you can't send a question right now. There you go. Okay. That's a challenge. Having to create a channel. Huh. Okay. Well, that's the way it's gonna roll. Technology has not always been my strong point. Okay. Yeah. I don't remember hearing anything about that, having to create a channel. But there's always something. This is kind of like a test run, so I can find out how to do it the next time. If there's an interest, I'll do it. I think there will be an interest, but I think it's probably a timing thing too. People want to be at different times. All right. All right. So, okay. Okay. All right. So, yes. Well, I'll give you. Oh, okay. Here we go. So, yeah, sounds good. Holly, the tomatoes are doing great. I knew they would from the pictures, and everything is a trial and error, including in my garden. Every year is a trial and error, but I learn a little bit every year, and I try to get the upper hand and have victory after a while. And that's what I'm here to help people with. I have fought the good fight of protecting my plants and growing plants and being a shepherd of my plants for so many years that I can help you with, I'd say, just about almost anything that you can get hit with. So throw any questions at me. I'll tell you what the topic is about. It's about keeping your garden alive at this time of year when so many insects and diseases start ramping up. For instance, I have butternut squash, and it's really doing well. And I also planted a blue Hubbard squash next to the I planted a blue Hubbard squash next to the butternut squash to be a bait crop, because the squash bugs and the squash vine borers like the blue Hubbard squash much better than the other squash. So it's working too. The blue Hubbard squash is taking most of the hits. But I'm out there every day trying to save the blue Hubbard squash. I'm picking up, I don't have samples here, but every single day I'm pulling eggs off the top of the leaves, and I'm inspecting. I'm even killing some of the adult squash bugs, just squishing them. A weird thing happened the other day. I squished a squash bug, and the juice went into my eye. And it burned like crazy. I had to go in and flush my eye with water. But anyway, I'm like the shepherd of my plants, and I can help you with whatever you I don't know if I can send you a picture of this. I'm really new at this, but if you're on my newsletter list, I'm sending them out from there. And if you go on my YouTube channel, I've got a lot of pictures of me picking up these bugs and these eggs. I don't have any right here. I guess I could have held them up if I did have them, but I don't have any. Well, maybe I did. Have I thrown them in the garbage here? I mean, I've taken so many eggs off. It's unbelievable. And they go in the zucchini, by the way. I know you said you picked a new fresh zucchini, Holly. Zucchini is in that family too, the cucurbit family. And those squash bugs, they lay on the undersides of the leaves or on the top of the leaves. And they're little tiny brown eggs lined up in a row. And they hatch into little squash bugs, which will feed off of the juices of your leaves. And then they'll spread diseases, and then the whole thing will turn white with disease. The whole cucurbit, whatever it is a squash, blue Hubbard gourd, a cucumber plant, a zucchini. They're all in the same family. So, yeah. So, what are some of the other challenges? Okay, so now how can you fight disease and insects naturally? Okay, you can fight insects and diseases naturally. Like, this is what I do. One, practice good cultural practices. If you buy disease and insect-resistant varieties, then you'll have a better chance. So, for instance, the blue Hubbard squash is not a insect-resistant variety, but the other squashes that I have are, and they'll go naturally to the one that they like to dine on the most. And the same thing with tomatoes. You can pick tomatoes, or you can pick them for disease resistance. If you go into a plant catalog, now I always recommend organic and non-GMO, but you could buy hybrid. Hybrid's fine. It just means they combine two different types of tomato plants or two different kinds of plants. They bred them together so they can have the best disease resistance or the best insect resistance. So I choose those guys because I'd rather not have to deal with diseases and insects. Insect resistant variety. So as far as with the cucumbers, it's Market More 76. That's the most disease resistant with the cucumbers. With the tomatoes, Early Girl, I used Early Girl, and that was the toughest one I had this year. Early Girl and Celebrity tomatoes got a lot of disease resistance. And the butternut squash, as far as cucumbers, the butternut squash, well, they are the most insect resistant. They are the least attractive to the squash bugs and the squash vine borers. So those are a few right there. Yeah. So the best way to prevent disease and insects, and let's face it, I mean, we live in this fallen world. I just quoted the scripture, was Isaiah 2:4, that in the end times, in the millennial reign of Christ, we're going to be beating the swords into plowshares. We're going to be converting our weapons into gardening tools and gardening again, because gardening is a blessing from the Lord, and growing your own food is a blessing from the Lord. So starting with the Garden of Eden, going all the way to the Promised Land, where they inherited gardens, to back to the millennial reign in the end times, where the biggest blessing is growing your own food. One of the biggest blessings is growing your own food. So it's good to start now. So the way to be a good steward now that we're in this age where there's all sorts of plagues and insects and diseases coming against our bodies, coming against all of God's creation. So the best thing you can do is pick varieties that are disease resistant, put them in the best spot. So a tomato plant, I know, Holly, you were on the very edge of this. You were asking me earlier off, well, I don't know if my tomato plants are going to get shaded out or if they get enough sun. Well, the best thing you could do is put a crop, in a position where it's going to be the happiest. So if it says on the seed packet it needs full sun, that means 6 hours of straight continuous sun plus. That'll help you avoid having to use, with not dealing with pesticides and getting away from all of that stuff. Bait crops, put in the right soil, good fertilizer, good water. And I think the wood chip garden is the best, because once the wood chip garden starts going, the plants are going to be so content and so healthy there that they will actually have a good immune system, if so to speak. They'll be able to resist these bugs and diseases. The second thing you could do is be a good steward, be the shepherd of your plants. I go out every single day, early in the morning, and sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, to pick off insect eggs and inspect the condition of my flock, and to see if they have diseases or if they have any insects starting. If you catch them early off, say if a plant has a disease, say if a cucumber leaf starts turning white or getting blotches, just take the leaf off and throw it in the garbage. If you see eggs on a plant, take it off. You see beetles on a plant, Japanese beetles, take them off. The double composted, your question is, I am wondering if my double composted wood chips were from a black walnut tree, because things are not growing well in there. Well, I'm not sure if that is, you have some stuff growing, so I'm not sure if you're saying if it's just one area or other areas. I don't think it's going to be that, because even if it was from black walnut, if it's been sitting around long enough, it's going to be fine. If it's fresh, it's stronger, but I don't think that's the issue. I think the whole issue is trial and error, seeing what works, going out every morning, see if they're dry, see if they've got an insect, see if they're getting enough sun. They're like little babies. I know, Holly, you're spoiled because you just go to God's creation and his planting, and he waters them and he takes care of them, and you just harvest them. But if you're going to be a gardener, you have to be like Adam or Eve, and you're the one going out there checking on the plants. You are spoiled. Yes, for sure. I said that. You're spoiled because God, you're just like Adam and Eve in the garden. You're just harvesting what God does. But there is a place for gardening as well too, because the Israelites, when they went to the Promised Land, they inherited gardens that they didn't plant. It didn't mean they could just ignore them. They had to water them and take care of them and tie up the vines and cut them and prune them. So yeah. So I think you're doing a great job the first year. I would love to see some pictures of your first zucchini and the tomato plants too. So the second thing to do is to have a natural garden, is to go out and check your garden every day. And then if you have to use pesticides, there are organic pesticides you could use, natural things. Like I use something called Green Cure. Actually, if you hold on for 1 second, I do actually have those. I could show you those. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm still here. All right, I'm going to show you some natural things I use. So this is Repels All. I sprinkle this on the perimeter of my gardens just in case there are any of those animals there, like the bunnies and the woodchucks and the deer. And most of the time it works. I haven't had anything nibble on anything in my garden. You don't put it on the plants, you put it around the plants. And let's see what else I have here. I use organic. I don't sell any of this stuff. It's what I use. Organic garden tone. There's a tomato tone, a garden tone, a plant tone. Garden tone is just about for all of them. And it's good stuff, and it's organic. To feed your plants. Your tomato plants, you want to feed them like maybe once a month with this. You just top dress it, follow the instructions. If it says to put a cup of the fertilizer around the plant and water it in, just do it. Do what it says to do. It works really good. You don't want to get synthetic fertilizers because they hurt the soil, and it's like giving your plants Twinkies and junk food. It makes them grow this year, but it hurts the soil for next year. Organic fertilizers feed the soil, and then the fertilizer will just get better and better and better as all the microorganisms grow and the worms are happy. They'll just pay back itself. And this is the stuff, talking about organic pesticides now. Now, I hardly ever have to spray anything, but when I do, I use organic. So this is called Green Cure, and I think the main ingredient is potassium bicarbonate. So this is potassium. It's like what they make beer out of. It's all natural. So, when I had the greenhouses, towards the end of the year, there was a disease that got in there one year, and I had to spray with this stuff, and it's an organic fungicide. It's called Green Cure. You can get it on Amazon or just look up Green Cure fungicide. Green Cure fungicide. And the byproduct of this too is this actually kills soft-bodied insects like whiteflies and aphids too. So you don't have to go buying, synthetic pesticides to kill aphids or whiteflies if you should get them. Again, if your garden is healthy and it's got a good immune system and everything's planted in the right spot, they will resist insects and diseases. What else do I got here? Here's another one. Here's a natural pesticide too. It's called organicide, and the main ingredient is like sesame oil. So there's never been a time, because all natural and organic has come to the forefront. People are sick and tired of dangerous pesticides, and there's a huge movement just to go organic and natural. Now, I've been on this for years, but lately there's been a lot. So you can go anywhere, a box store, I think this is from Home Depot or Lowe's, called Organicide garden spray, and this kills insects, a lot of different insects. Just read the label, and like I said, the main ingredient is sesame oil. So there you go. You don't have to pollute the earth or your body. So those are just a few. Let's see. Yeah, Twinkies are junk food. Yes, they are. So when you put synthetic fertilizer, like if you go to a store and you buy 5-10-5 and it's got urea in it, that's made out of all synthetic stuff. It's not natural, and it hurts the soil and hurts the microbes. You don't want to do that. No, you don't need to buy all those insecticides, and you might just want to have one of them on hand. Just one of them on hand, and that should be enough. If you just have one on hand, the best thing to do is hand pick and kill the enemies of your plants between your fingers. So, okay, which one? Well, let's see. You can do this one. Might as well just get the organicide. This pretty much kills everything. It's an insecticide, fungicide, and miticide. So, you get that at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's easy peasy. So, anyway, and the last way you could prevent disease and insects is to plant in a wood chip garden. Wood chip garden keeps your plant's immune system strong, and you're able to grow the plants in there with very little issue with disease and insects. It takes about a year or two for the wood chip garden to really kick in. You could use a cheat sheet like we have taught on putting some compost underneath and then just digging down into the compost, or digging a furrow and planting in good soil or compost on the top too. So, gardening is fun. It's a blessing, but you do have to be a steward. You have to be someone who takes care of your garden and cares for your garden. You can't just plant it and walk away and say, forget about it, as we say in New York. Forget about it. You can't do that. You have to be on top of it. You have to look at it every day. But if you go and look at it, it's a joy. It's not a burden for me. I can't wait to get up in the morning and go look out in my garden to see how big the butternut squash are getting. It's even fun hunting for the eggs. It's even fun hunting for those eggs, the squash bug eggs. I mean, I go out there and I just pull up a piece of the leaf and make a pile and discard it. I just throw it right in the garbage, you know. And it's great. It's really cool to think that I'm helping that plant. I've got this huge sprawling squash plant. Really nice. Yeah. So let's see. The other thing I want to talk about is So the main thing I wanted to touch on today was how do you deal with all the insect and disease pressure that's going to be in your garden in the middle of the summer? Well, I gave you five ways to do that. Now the thought is, really, you're not worth your salt. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but if you're going to be a survival gardener, you're not worth your salt unless you have a backup planting, a succession planting, a planting that will succeed the first planting. So, you need to get just beyond planting tomatoes and then just picking them and that's it. You've got to say the tomatoes will be done by middle of August. They won't be producing that well, so I'm going to make a decision to rip them out and plant cabbage or plant beets or plant carrots. So that's what I've already worked on. I made a rough sketch here. I'm going to put it on my computer. You probably won't be able to read this, but this is my succession crop garden that's going to go in by August 15th. So I've already started seeding some of the plants that you need to put in by seed. So I'm just going to read off a few of you. So if you're from Zone 7, North Carolina, or Zone 6, North Carolina, you could be getting ready to plant by seed carrots, beets, turnips, lettuce, cucumbers, zucchini, green beans, spinach. You could even get a second crop of tomatoes in, or Swiss chard. If you're up in Saratoga, which I know I've had some people up in Saratoga, if you're up in Saratoga, then you're not going to be able to plant hardly anything by seed now because pretty soon the snow's going to be coming. So, I'm up from that area originally. But if you're up in the Saratoga area, you can still plant lettuce and turnips and spinach for baby leaf and garlic, by the way. We could all plant garlic in the fall, whether you're up from the north or the south. If you're going to plant by plug, let's see, please take a snapshot. Holly, maybe you could even this is the first time I've even done a live. I did it with you, but your husband Jason is a genius when it comes to technology. I could barely turn the computer screen on, so I don't know how to do a snapshot. If you could explain it to me in very simple terms, I could probably try to do it, but I'm like so low tech, you wouldn't believe it. I'm broadcasting out of my basement here, if you can't tell. But if you're in North Carolina or in the south here somewhere, you could still plant by plug some of the longer season crops. What I mean by plug is a transplant. When you go to the garden center and you see the 6-packs of these plants, these seedlings growing in the plugs in the 6-packs in the little pots. Those guys you could plant even now in North Carolina. You could plant tomatoes, lettuce, green beans, collards, kale, eggplant, onions, broccoli, cabbage, all by plugs. And if you're up in the frozen north, where it starts snowing at the end of August, you could still get away with. There's a lot of things that grow through the winter there. They don't grow through the winter; they'll survive through the winter. But you need to plant them by plug. You could plant spinach, cabbage, early cabbage, collards, kale, broccoli, and then garlic, of course, too, in the north. What I do plan on doing, Holly, is dedicating a newsletter to my planting plan. So I'm going to actually put it on. I have a gardening software tool, and I'm going to put that plan on my newsletter and send it out. I don't know how to make a screenshot on this. So that's pretty much what I wanted to present today. If anybody else has any questions, let's see. Yeah. All right. So very good. So we're at the halfway mark. If you have any other questions, now shoot them about any disease challenges, insect challenges to your garden, or about succession planting. What to plant now, where. Okay. So very good. I'm just going to hang on here if anybody wants to come on late just for a few more minutes. Otherwise, I think I pretty much presented what I wanted to present, and people have asked what they wanted to ask. Alrighty. Very good. All right. So, good deal. Good deal. When I get off this call, I'm gonna go out to my garden and go pick some squash bug eggs off of the leaves. And I have posted many times on YouTube close-up pictures of this, so you can see it right there. I wish I could know how to do that here. I don't know what to do. We don't have access to this feature. Okay, I'm pressing a camera here. It says I don't have access to this feature, so I don't think I can do it. So I don't have the advanced software. This is just raw YouTube live. Let's see. Live chat. Participants. Wow, blessing is still here. Okay. Alrighty. So. Yeah. Chat. Okay. All right. Well, God bless. Thank you for coming, and I'm hoping you picked up some gleanings from my garden answers here. Alrighty. Let's see. I got a few more people here. What we're doing now is fielding questions about diseases and insect pressure in the middle of the garden season, which it's heavy right now, and we're also talking about what to plant next. Because if you're a survival gardener, you don't want to just plant one crop. You want to plant at least 2 or 3 crops, one after the other. Let's see. Well, it says 3, but I only see 2. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So, let's see. Huh. Yeah, the raining, that was really weird. That was really strange this year with the rain. I mean, I was out there. I don't have an irrigation system set up. I used to have, in my farm in New York, I used to have professional drip irrigation that I could put on timers. And I could just turn the knob and walk away, and it would water it. Now, I don't have acres here either. So, I mean, my garden's only 50 by 100 here. But I'm literally out there, not just me, but the people that were helping me here, volunteering, with a 2-gallon watering can and going out there and watering the rows every single day. It was so hot, and now it's rained so much. So what do? That's what happens. That's what happens. It's like what happens though with the wood chip garden is after it starts really breaking down and the ground starts getting soft underneath it and the worms start moving up and down with the microorganisms, there's better drainage then. So you'll have better drainage. You'll be able to drain up and it'll drain better. I had one section of my garden that got so wet underneath and it didn't have good drainage at all. Yeah. So, yep, that's a problem. Too much rain. What are you going to do? It's amazing how things survive. Right? So imagine not enough rain, too much rain, and then God has made it's just a miracle. God in a bean seed. If you think of the bean seed, the DNA, you put one. We picked so many beans already, green beans. DNA, the bean, it produces 100-fold. So you plant it in the ground, and 60 days later, you've got 100-fold. In fact, I do have to answer this one question for a friend of mine in upstate New York that couldn't be on right now. What is wrong with my bean plants? Well, I took a look at the pictures, and I just think you haven't given them enough time. There's only 1 or 2 things that could be wrong with them. If you haven't given them 60 days, they're not going to be producing beans yet. But the other thing that could happen is if you put too much fertilizer in there with any vegetable plant, what will happen is that it'll produce beautiful lush foliage and no fruit. So it'll produce a ton of leaves but no fruit. That's why it's good to use the really good balanced fertilizer like Espoma, Garden Tone, because they don't put too much nitrogen in there. If you just go to the store and buy anything with nitrogen, like something that says garden fertilizer or any kind of fertilizer, you might be over fertilizing them and giving the leaves just turn lush and they don't produce any flowers or fruit. So that could be the other problem. It could be that the fertilizer, or you just haven't given enough time. As far as the eggplant curling up around the tips, that's either a sign of too much or too little water. It's a watering issue. So you got to just be the judge of it. If anything is planted in pots, the general rule is you have to plant it. You have to water it every single day unless it rains. So that answers that question. So yeah. All right. So I think I'm going to end it now. Happy gardening, and I'm going to try to do these once a month. If there's a better time for you all, I'm a morning person, so I don't like doing stuff at night. But anytime during the day, I should be able to make the time once a month to come and do a garden question and answer. It could be anytime from 5 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. Those are good times for me. All righty. All right, good. So, yeah, if you could think of any other questions you'd like to hit for next time, we'll probably continue with the succession planting. That's what we should be into, and also harvesting too. Harvesting and canning. That's the next thing on the menu here. You always have to think, you know, a month or two ahead at least, or if not more, 6 months or a year. There's certain times of the year. There's a certain time. Yeah, for sure. We've done so much canning. We still have stuff from New York from 10 years ago that we're still eating, and it's wonderful. And canning is the way to go. I mean, when you grow something, it's almost important. You should think of it in terms of how much do I want? How much do I need? What am I going to do with it? Am I going to can it? Am I going to fresh eat it? Am I going to freeze it? And I mean, for instance, growing tomatoes. If you want to grow tomatoes for tomato sauce and canning tomatoes, making your own sauce, one Roma tomato plant will make 1 quart of tomato sauce. So do the math. How many quarts do you want for your family over the winter? Do you want 20 quarts? Well, you plant 20 Roma tomatoes. So yeah, that was the 1-2. That was our partnership. That was our teamwork. I would plant, and my wife would do the canning, and we'd harvest together. And it's great. It's great. And also too, storage, or winter storage too in your cellar. We just planted a whole bunch of. We collected it, and we're drying our garlic. You can't see it. I'm looking at it right now. Right outside our door, there's garlic hanging under our overhang, and it's ready to go. So we've been drying it since June. It's definitely ready now. In fact, I got to do that any day now. Just cut off the stalks and put them in a basket somewhere as cool as it could be, and they'll last. Probably get about 4 months out of them. Yeah. Or you could even make. We haven't done this yet, but you can make garlic oil, garlic sauce. The other thing we do too is I'm growing them this year. I grow hot cayenne peppers to make a folk medicine tincture, cayenne tincture too. So it's good to have your own herbal medicines too. It's the way to go. If you can't grow them all yourself, you can order them by the pound. I do that all the time. Just order a pound of echinacea, order a pound of mullein, and you just make tinctures out of them. We'll also talk about things like that too. Good, good, good. Alrighty. Well, Lord bless you all, and we will see you next time.